Hi, Mark here from the Tangent-Bound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangent-Bound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangent-Bound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangentBoundNetwork.com and see if Tangent-Bound Network is right for you.
This is a Danger Entertainment podcast. DangerEntertainment.net's Danger Entertainment Podcast Network.
And welcome to the Pittsburgh Nerd Podcast. I'm Sean.
And I'm Ian.
Hey, Ian.
Yeah.
Did you know you could find us on the Danger Entertainment Network?
Danger
Entertainment. That's right.
Sounds dangerous.
It is. It's a tad bit dangerous. You'd be shocked to find that out. You know, there's a bunch of great podcasts you can find there. Our friends from the History of Bad Ideas podcast, Who to What Now, The Sodded Geek. No, they retired. That's right. They retired. But there are a bunch of other great podcasts you can find there, along with us. You know, we're the Pittsburgh Nerd Podcast, and we do pop culture and chili cheese dogs and whatever else floats our fancy.
Yeah.
Check us out.
For sure.
For sure. We're on most podcatchers, so give us a look.
Peace.
We're not doctors, therapists, trained professionals of any kind, so if you feel you do need help, please reach out and get the help you need. We have a whole list of things on our files page over on Facebook at facebook.com/crazylifepodcast. And or just search on the internet for the suicide prevention hotline number, or go to NAMI.org, or whatever resource you can find. But just please reach out for help if you need it. If you feel as though you're going to harm yourself or others, definitely reach out and try not to be alone. Also, if you feel that way and you realize that you're writing a note or making plans of how you would do, like harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. That's a huge red flag. And lastly, please do not replace the idea of therapy with listening to this show. Again, if you need help, please reach out and get the help that you need, or contact us. We can try to help you find the help that you need.
Life sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time, so stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everybody. My name is Jen, and I am your hostess for the evening. And with me, as always, is Brian. Hey, Brian.
Howdy.
Unfortunately, Hennel couldn't join us, but it is for a very good reason. He is celebrating 1 year of wedded bliss with his lovely wife, so congratulations to them, and all that good jazz.
Yeah.
And I do need to apologize because my voice may be a little bit weird today. Fighting a little bit of something. So sorry if it goes in and out, but hopefully it'll last us the show.
Yeah. And if not, more Brian. So
Yes, hashtag more Brian.
yeah.
I'll do my best not to cough in everybody's ear because, that's really lovely when you're trying to listen to a podcast.
Yeah. Really quick, I just looked something up because I wasn't sure. And I have to make a quick correction. It's 2 years for Henno and Sharon.
Oh my goodness. Already?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Pretty fast.
It does not seem like 2 years.
Yeah.
Wow. Congratulations, you guys. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Right. Well, either that or Henno has it wrong on his Facebook. One or the other.
I doubt that he has it wrong.
For
I'm
his
sure
sake.
It is me.
Yeah, I was going to say, for his sake, I hope you're wrong.
I'm at the point, we're knocking on 3 years, so I guess that would make sense.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
I guess that does make sense when you look at the timeline and things. Good thing I don't age, right?
Yeah. Just our brains.
Yeah, right. Everything else around me time can pass, but I stayed the same, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Sure.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Well, excuse me. So, I guess I will go first since you went first last time.
Also, I mean, right now you've got a voice, so you might as well, use it while it's there.
Kind of, that's what I was kind of thinking. I'm like, I might as well take advantage of this, and then I can have a little break to
Right.
breathe a minute and talk some more.
Right.
So, this week has been fairly good. Like I said, my string of luck has been of nice, steady, easy weeks has been continuing, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I did do a bit of, I think I talked a little bit about being very emotional last week.
Yeah.
And that kind of continued for a few more days, but I was able to kind of keep everything together. I didn't make any decisions, which is when you're highly emotional, definitely don't want to do that. And, I made sure that I kept things in perspective. And I bounced things off of people in an appropriate manner just to kind of help me keep perspective and keep things in check, keep the heart and the brain working together.
Yeah.
So that one doesn't go off the deep end. And you know how that all goes.
Mm-hmm.
So that went well. This weekend, Friday, my brother came to town, which is awesome. So I got to see my brother and have dinner with my dad, and my husband and my brother, of course, which was fun and always an adventure because we are all talkers, all four of us.
Yeah.
And none of us are the best listeners.
Right.
And as you've been around us, you understand you can and will have multiple conversations going at the exact same time.
Yes.
And yeah, so it gets overwhelming. You're not quite sure which way to look or who to finish listening to.
Right.
Because someone will start talking and you're hearing a story. Then another person will start talking to you. So then you're trying to listen to the first one and let him finish when you're getting the story from the second person. And you just end up at one point just stopping and you have something to say, but you're never getting that out. So it's interesting. I love them dearly, but it makes for an interesting evening. And that's why my brother and my dad had breakfast the next morning together before hanging out with my brother hung out with me for a while. And they were like, why didn't you go to breakfast? I'm like, well, because I wanted you two to have some time. Because I really wanted them to be able to kind of talk and just kind of just have that time between the two of them and just enjoy the father-son time.
Yeah.
And, I get time with my dad all the time, so my brother doesn't, just to have that.
Right.
Which worked out well, and they both really enjoyed it, so that worked out good.
Yeah. Good.
Then that night, I went to a party at a friend's house. It was a friend's birthday, and that was fun. it was interesting because I've learned I'm becoming kind of snobby into what I like to drink, which is a good thing and a bad thing.
Yeah.
A good thing because I know what I like.
Right.
Not so good when you don't have options.
Right.
So I ended up drinking Bud Light all night, which was interesting because Bud Light is one of those drinks that I can drink it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the most enjoyable drink for me.
Right.
Very watery to my taste.
Yep.
But it is what it is.
Yeah.
I did notice that it doesn't hit you as hard as a lot of stuff that I've been drinking.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, so that's good. But man, did it make me thirsty.
That's funny.
Just the next morning, I was like dying of thirst.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, yeah. So, I mean, it just made me really thirsty.
Mm-hmm.
And I had quite a few, not quite a few, but I had my fair share of Bud Lights, but yeah. And then they also had Jack, which I won't touch Jack.
Yeah.
No, not if I have a choice.
Right.
Because I'm a whiskey fan, and Jack is just
Jack's the Bud Light.
It's kind of watered down.
Yeah, it's the Bud Light of whiskey. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's there, it does the job, it tastes fine enough, but you'd rather have something else.
Mm-hmm. So next time go to party, bring your own.
Yeah. That's...
Because if I was them too, if I was having a party, I would have Bud Light too.
Yeah. Oh, totally. I'd have something like that that's cheap. Yeah.
Because, yeah. It's a good standard.
Yeah, it's cheap and a lot of people will just drink it. Yeah.
Better than our old standard, Natty Light.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Thankfully, we're past that stage of our lives.
Well, slow down. No.
Uh-oh.
We went out for T's birthday, and Tony bought us a round of Natter Days, so...
Natter Days? What's a Natter Day?
It's their, like, pink lemonade natural light.
Oh, my.
It's basically their summer shandy kind of a thing. So, and it's, oh my God, is it sweet. So sweet.
That sounds just, sounds over the top.
It's much like natural light. It's very easy drinking, but so sweet.
Yeah, the sweet will kill you.
Yeah. But no, the two things I found to deal with, like, the snottiness when it comes to that stuff is, like you said, first of all, if you're going somewhere and you suspect that they won't have what you like, bring your own. Or also, kind of like you did with Bud Light, is find your like cheap alternative. That's something for a while. Like when we were going out, it was always craft beer, and it's like, man, these are $5 a pint, $7 a pint, or whatever. It's like that, it eats you up really fast. And there's some nights where I'm not looking to lay out $30. I'm rather be like, oh, Pabst Blue Ribbons, $2.50 all night, or whatever. So that's kind of what I've done is it's, we've all done is, you just find your, like, okay, I can drink on this. Or, like when we'd go to like a show or something, a lot of them didn't really have, a great beer selection. So it was like, yeah, they all have PBR or Miller Lite or something like that. So it's like, yeah, give me that. I'll drink that all night. It'll get the job done, but it won't kill me, price-wise or alcohol-wise.
Exactly. And just like everything we've ever talked about on here, it's all about that balance.
Yep.
It's, it's finding the right fit for you.
Mm-hmm.
So that was fun. And then Sunday, I was just basically recuperating and just relaxing and doing laundry and doing all that stuff. And just basically it's just been solid, just solid living, which it's been a while since I haven't had something really going on to really preoccupy myself with.
Right.
So it's good, and it takes a little bit of time and a little effort not to be looking around the corner and saying what's coming next, or
That's right. Yeah.
what
Sure.
another shoe's gonna fall. But you just focusing on the day and trying to keep things going the same direction that they've been going.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's right.
So that's really what's been going on with me. So,
Right.
How about you? What's going on with you?
Let's see. Well, obviously, not obviously for those listening, whatever. As the time of recording this, yesterday was Father's Day, which I've mentioned on here plenty of times is not, generally an easy day for me. And, it's weird because for a while I was kind of like, you know what? Like, I was getting to where it was like, oh yeah, this isn't hurting or as much or whatever. But I actually realized that what was going on was some of it was during the time when I was on Effexor, which just made me like dull to everything. So
Gotcha.
it wasn't so much that the day was hurting me. Well, it was, but it was because it was pushing me more towards apathy than it was like
Being okay with
it. Yeah. So, because the last couple years since I've been on Trintellix, I've noticed the difference is that since being on that, like it affects me every year, like it's just going to, and, which is fine. Cause it's one of those things like, it's coming. So you can kind of prepare for it a little bit. And, yesterday I just felt just down all day. Just really kind of just feeling blah. And, but that's okay. And then last night because I was feeling the way I was like, well, I'm going to throw some music on because... I didn't feel like a podcast, like I wanted to listen to some music for a while. And so I throw, on my old iPad, I have Pandora cause it won't run Spotify. So, so I open Pandora and put it on the Slipknot channel, as one does to cheer up. And, just at one point, Shinedown's cover of Simple Man came on and I just lost it. I just started bawling, like could not control it. And I was like, holy crap, cause first, I mean, look, even though I've done a lot of work on myself, I still hold in a lot,
Yeah.
and I think it was just one of those like perfect storm moments where everything just kind of hit me at one time. And the funny, like, Simple Man has no connotation to my dad. Like, there's no connection at all with it to my dad or anything like that. It's just, the only thing that, maybe would be there is, like a lot of people, you always hope that your parents would be proud of you kind of a thing. And, and that's kind of some of the message of the song a little bit is just be a good, simple person and, whatever. So, but something about it just triggered it, and I just was a mess for a little while, and then got it all out, and then I felt fine, Well, I mean, I was still down, but you know what I mean. It was like I was okay. I cried for a while, and I was like, okay, that's it. I don't have any more. That's it. Like I'm done. It's just apparently that all needed to get out of me. So that I haven't had that kind of moment in a long time. Like depression used to do that to me a lot. Like just the weirdest little thing. And I would just, that it was like the worst thing in the world, kind of, or I would just lose it. And by lose it, I don't mean get mad or angry or anything, just uncontrollably sob basically for a few minutes or whatever. And so that was really weird, cause I haven't had that in a long time and it just finally caught me. So yeah, but it was, like I said, it was very, very strange to deal with, but whatever, like I said, it's something I kind of see coming every year. So, Mm-hmm. Well, not kind of. I mean, I see it coming every year because it's calendar.
Well, and everybody needs those moments,
Yeah.
And guys a lot of times get there's stigma attached to it,
Mm-hmm.
but there's nothing wrong, and everybody needs it. It's cathartic. I can talk.
Yeah.
It's good for you just to get it out and to just be in that moment, own it, and move through it.
Right. Yeah, and like I said, I didn't fight it or anything like that. It was just like, well, this is happening, and just
Right.
okay, it's because there's no point in fighting it really. I mean, it is just like you said, it's just sometimes you need to get it out of you. I will say the part that stunk really about it was that it messes my sinuses all up. Because afterwards, my sinuses are like, so are we full? Or are we not? Are we doing like what's going on? And oh man, it got so bad after that. But other than that, it was like I said, just clearly something needed to happen. And I posted a thing on Twitter similar to what I usually do. That was like, if you can't decide what to get your dad for Father's Day this year, try a hug and tell him that you love him. And kind of like do it for all of us that can't, kind of a thing,
Right.
And, cause it's true. It's one of those, every time I see somebody griping about something dumb about their parents, and it's like, do you know what I would give to have a stupid argument with my dad right now? Like that kind of thing. So, yeah. But like anything, loss is never easy to deal with. And even though, I mean, it's been 14 years, but it's not as hard as it used to be, but it's still really difficult, so yeah.
Well, it's one of those things where, like we've talked about loss a lot, over the years and stuff, but one thing that's always stood out in my mind, and sorry folks, it's a little bit of a gross analogy, but if you have a wound that's starting to heal, if you keep picking at it, it's never going to fully heal.
Yeah.
Even if it's healed, you're going to have that scar. So you're never going to forget. It's always going to be a part of you, but just don't don't intentionally use music to help pick the scars.
Yeah, right.
Pick your wounds open and stuff.
Well, I guess it depends, because kind of if you need it to kind of, like last night, I didn't do it on purpose. I literally was just like, like that kind of music generally distracts me. It gets my mind off of things, because it's music I like. So, and then, it just did that. But yeah, there are obviously songs I would listen to if I was in a bad way and trying to kind of stay there. So,
Yeah, and that's the thing. You have to move past things to a certain extent, and you have to let them heal to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Everybody does it in their own way, in their own time frame.
Right.
But I'm just talking about don't intentionally sit in it and stay there for long periods of time.
Yeah.
Because that's not healthy.
Right.
Either. You got to feel things, but you got to move through them. Can't just sit and stay in them.
Right.
Because then that's where trouble happens. So do your best to keep moving through. Just keep moving through the motions. Yeah.
I think it's just a really interesting thing for me to have learned that really the grieving process doesn't always end.
Right.
That it isn't okay, it's been 3 months, everything's, back to normal now, blah, blah. It's like, no, it's 14 years later and it still really, really hurts. And I still feel like there's a giant hole in my life. Like it's amazing how, so many things happen to us and we like I said, within a few months or whatever, we're like, okay, whatever. And you're back to whatever it is you do, but there's just some loss that just never, the wound never seems to completely heal on it,
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyways, I've depressed everybody. No.
Hey, okay. We all go through it.
Yeah. It's,
You know?
you know what's weird is I had, like, when I'm in those kind of moods, I've often, and I'm trying to at times be like, like self-reflective, but what ends up happening is that, sometimes you end up in a place where you're like, ooh, this isn't productive. But
yes.
it was weird because I was thinking about how with the misophonia that I have, which is the, where certain sounds like just set me off, like anger me basically, like people eating or crunching or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting how like the thought on that is that your ears, like your brain doesn't filter out those things like most people's brain does. And it's funny because it's like, well, it kind of is the same way that depression is my brain doesn't deflect a lot of those thoughts that a lot of people, if their brain kind of starts to have, they immediately kind of just dismiss them and move forward. And it's like, in my head, I'm kind of like, geez, I wonder what else my brain doesn't filter out that it should filter out. It kind of makes you wonder if this is a across the board thing or if it's only like certain things it doesn't filter right,
Right.
like, so I was thinking about that for a while. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that's pretty much about it for the week for me. I haven't done a whole lot because weather.
Yeah, the weather has just been a real kicker this year.
Yeah, it is just killing my head. I seriously am still like almost every day fighting something, and it's not fun.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah, it can stop raining anytime for a good length of time. Like,
yeah, we're getting maybe a day and a half in between rain.
Yeah.
Which sucks.
Yep. Which is just enough time for my sinuses to not readjust.
Right.
So, actually, it's more the pressure change than it is anything. It's not as much the rain as it is just like when we get a pressure system come through, it feels like somebody is just crushing my head, So,
yeah,
that can just stop.
Well, you have our story for today, or our article for today.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. And it's from Tiny Buddha. And it was 5 things to stop doing when you're struggling and feeling drained. Because I think we've all, we've talked on here before about it, and we've all been through stuff like that. And
absolutely. Well, I think it was Heno that said, can't pour from an empty pot.
Yeah, from an empty, whatever,
cup,
bowl, receptacle of some sort.
You can't fill someone else up if you fill yourself up first.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is, the first thing it says is stop comparing your struggle to anyone else's. Which, first of all, before I even get into this, that is just something you should do anyway. Like,
oh my God, you're not kidding.
No matter what your struggle is, just don't compare it to somebody else's, because nobody wins in that scenario. It's bad.
Everybody's different. Everybody has a different struggle that they're going through.
Mm-hmm.
And something that's really been just cheesing me off lately is I get that we, as human beings, we're probably more alike than we are different.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we'd like to consider ourselves completely unique individuals, 100% unique.
Yeah.
We have a lot of similarities between ourselves, especially when it comes to, when you come down to mental illness and stuff.
Yeah.
The thing that's been cheesing me off a lot is, and I hate to even suggest that someone would fake mental illness.
Yeah.
Or play up their mental illness for attention. But there's definitely, some of that happens.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that cheeses me off so bad. Because it's like, I go through the work, I go through all the effort, and I do all the stuff that I do just to keep myself sane and to keep my life on track. And you're going to take credit for it, is what it feels like.
Yeah.
And you're going to sit there and live a pretty much normal life and, yeah. And again, I know I'm sitting in judgment of someone I don't know. And I don't understand their scenario. I don't understand. There's so much that's probably under the water that I can't see, that I'm making big, massive judgments about.
Yeah.
And that's what I keep trying to tell myself and pull myself back from that edge. But it just really
I
irks
get it.
me.
I get it, because I remember, like, when I first started seeing glasses as fashion accessories, like with no prescriptions or whatever, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, I got beaten up, picked on, just horribly bullied over my life because of having to wear glasses. And these people are now just gonna, I'm just gonna casually wear glasses. And it's like, it's like, I'm glad the world is at the point that that's okay, meaning that people wearing glasses is fine. It's normal, it's okay, But on the other hand, it's like you were saying, it's like, I had to endure all of this,
Right.
And you're just casually throwing them on your face.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I get it.
It just irks me. Mental health is just the one area that happens in. And, I consider myself very empathetic and almost empathic because of my sensitivities to other people's emotions.
Yeah.
I'm so sensitive, as we've talked about before. I can't watch TV shows. I can't watch movies.
Yeah.
I can't be in large crowds sometimes because I'm so sensitive to the emotional movements of the crowd. So these are massive things that affect my life.
Mm-hmm.
If people are arguing near me, I don't even know who they are. If people are arguing near me, it could almost cause me to cry.
Yeah.
Just because of the severe impact of their emotional state on my being.
Yeah.
So, but yet it's a term that everyone throws around like it's nothing.
Yeah. And we've talked about that on, what would we call the episode? I think it's something, it's something like, choosing your words or something to that effect, because there's, as we know, we've talked plenty of times about the people who use the wrong terminology for something, like, I'm so OCD, or I'm so, this or that.
She's moody, so she's bipolar.
Yeah.
My favorite.
Yeah.
If only I was just moody, folks. Trust me, I would take moody any day of the week.
Yeah, yeah. Like I had said,
I would take moody.
I'll take sadness over apathy, and so many people think depression is sadness, and it isn't. It's apathy. That's
right.
I mean, it can be sadness. Don't get me wrong, but it's the apathy is the worst part, not the sadness. Stop comparing your struggle to anyone else's. Over a year ago, an old friend of mine, this is the author, not me, was diagnosed with breast cancer. She's the same age as I am, and she's someone I've long admired, even though we've fallen out of touch beyond occasional interactions on social media. She left unfulfilling jobs despite the financial risk involved, walked away from relationships that weren't right for her, even while engaged, when it would have been easier to stay, and jumped out of more than 100 planes, each leap representative of the courage that guides her every inspiring, bold life choice. She faced cancer with the type of bravery I've come to expect from her, coupled with an honesty and vulnerability about her fears that, to me, displays even more strength. But still, I know it's been grueling. As I sit here in my own fortunate circumstances, as the same age as her, I often tell myself I have no reason to be struggling. My current experience couldn't even be termed a struggle compared to what she's been through. I should just suck it up when I'm having a hard day and push myself through any tiredness or discomfort because I'm lucky. But the reality is, I still have hard days. I'm still going through high-risk pregnancy, juggling a lot, and dealing with a host of fears and physical symptoms that require my compassion. I wouldn't compare my hard days to her devastating year. There's clearly no comparison. But the point is, I don't have to. I'm allowed to experience the feelings and struggles associated with my current life's circumstances, even if someone else's are far more tragic, and so are you. Many may have it worse, but why compare and judge? If it helps alleviate self-pity so you can find the perspective and strength you need to keep going, then by all means make comparisons. But if it only serves to minimize your feelings and needs, try to remember that two people can have completely different situations and both can need and deserve compassion equally. Which is a great point. Like, just because you don't know, like, to me, whatever I go through could be the worst thing I've ever been through. Even though maybe you've been through something 10 times worse, that doesn't mean that what I'm going through isn't, bad or in need of sympathy or whatever, like it said.
Exactly. And don't do it to yourself, because we talk about, judging others and comparing ourselves to others. What's that going to, unless it motivates you and helps you, if it's going to bring you down or minimize you, I mean, there's no point in doing that.
Right.
You feel your feelings. You are just as entitled to be upset over something as anyone else is.
Yep.
You're just as entitled to be hurt, to be angry, to be sad. All of those feelings, just if you're feeling them, feel them. Let yourself feel them.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to feel them. But as we kind of already talked about a little bit, move past through them whenever you can. Don't sit in them for long periods of time if you can help it.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely don't minimize yourself comparing yourself to others.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good way of wording that there, because that really is the crux of it, is that, using it to gain perspective and go, this isn't as bad as I'm making it out to be, is one thing.
Right.
But to look at it and go, well, I should shut up because it could be this or this. It's like, well, no, you're still allowed to be upset. It still stinks. It's, it's still whatever, like you said, whatever you're feeling is what it is. But there are times, I'm sure all of us, where you're having a little woe is me kind of situation, and
right.
You do need a kick in the pants to get you moving. So, just be careful of, which you're using it for. Number 2 is stop focusing on things that aren't priorities. When we're going through a tough time, we need to get extra discriminating about what truly matters and what doesn't. If we exhaust ourselves with the non-essential, we'll have little energy for the things that can actually move the dial in the areas of our life that need most need our attention. I remember when I had surgery to remove uterine fibroids 7 years back, I knew I needed to take it easier or else I'd prolong my healing. But I also felt the overwhelming urge to maintain order in my environment. I'm a control freak. It's what I do. I remember there were a pair of shoes next to the door where shoes didn't usually go. And not only that, they were askew. The horror. I was one day out of surgery, my lower stomach stitched together after being sliced across the middle. Yet I still felt the need to slowly lower myself so I could put these shoes in the closet, even though it was painful to do so. My mother, who was visiting me to help, pointed out the insanity, and I knew she was right. I now think of those shoes whenever I'm struggling physically or emotionally, and I ask myself, what else really doesn't need to be immediately done, or do I not actually have to do it myself? Can the dishes wait till morning, or can I get someone else to do them? Does every email in my inbox need a response, and immediately? Can I say no to some requests? Can I simplify my daily routine? What do I need to really do for myself, physically, emotionally, and professionally? And what do I just want to do because I think I should, to feel ahead of the curve or on top of things, or good about how much I'm checking off my to-do list? Scaling back can feel like failure, especially if you're a type A, like me, but sometimes we have to prioritize so we can use the limited energy we have wisely. If we don't, we risk busting open our air quote stitches, whether that means physical burnout or an emotional breakdown, and then we set ourselves back even further.
Absolutely. It's one of those things that you have to really keep perspective. Perspective is such a huge tool to be used in so many circumstances, but really focus in on, kind of what we've talked about on here before, which is the whole doesn't need to be said by me, doesn't need to be said right now.
Yeah.
Same thing can apply here.
Yep.
Like, doesn't need to be done by me, doesn't need to be done right now.
Right.
Use that as a perspective tool to help you understand where things are lying in the whole scheme of things, the big world picture.
Or like, I mentioned in therapy where my my therapist did where she walked through a scenario. Okay, those shoes are not where they belong and they're askew. What happens if you just leave them alone? Like, is the world going to crash down around you? Is this going to happen? And it's like, for the most part, nothing is really going to happen, and they could wait until someone else came in and you could say, hey, can you pick those shoes up? Or, whatever it needs to be. And I think we run into a lot of that stuff because, especially those of us that are, controlling, or have issues with, like, things have to be a certain way.
Yeah.
You run into those things where you just, as we've talked forever on this show, again, I know the first time I heard it was from him saying it. And I know it's not his saying, but it's the first time I heard it was the let go or be dragged. And that's really what a lot of this with control comes down to, is just let go. Like, let go of it, because so much of it is not going to change that much. Like, if you don't pick up those shoes, you can still continue your day, and, things, like I said, the world's not going to crash down around you, kind of a thing. This was how my therapist approached me driving, or my fear when I'm in cars is like, you just keep at, like, am I okay? Am I in danger? Is, like, is panic a response I should be having right now, kind of a thing? You kind of analyze where you are in the moment. And like with those, like I said, you look at them and go, okay, well, pick your hill, like, it's not worth going crazy over picking up your shoes or a few dishes in the sink or whatever. It's just not. Now, having said that, I fully understand that there are some people that, like, one day's dishes will turn into a week's worth of dishes if you don't stay on top of them, or, again, like you said, perspective and knowing who you are. You gotta, but if you realize, if you're doing it just to control a situation, like, try letting go of those occasionally. Don't worry about crossing everything down or off on your to-do list, Or, like I do, write a whole list and then pick a couple of things. Like, okay, here's my goals for today, And if you get them done, cool. You cross them off. You can always add more, but, don't beat yourself up if you don't get it. Just go, okay, well, tomorrow's another day. I guess I'll get to it then. And, just keep working on it.
Absolutely.
So, number 3 on here is stop expecting yourself to do what you could do before. This is one that I've struggled with. Maybe you were far more physically active or productive before, or you were the person anyone could call anytime, any day, wherever they needed an ear or a hand, or you were everyone's go-to person for a night out when they needed to blow off some steam. It's easy to cling to our sense of identity when we feel it slipping away. Not only do we mourn who we used to be, fearing this change may be permanent. We worry other people may not like this new version of ourselves, the person who's far less fun or far more needy. But the thing is, we're not who we were before. We're in a new chapter, facing new circumstances and challenges, and our evolving needs won't go away just because we ignore or neglect them. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. It just plain sucks when you can't do the things you once enjoyed. Says her boyfriend has had multiple knee surgeries and ongoing knee problems, and my heart breaks for him knowing he may never be able to do certain things he loves again, like playing basketball. But he's accepted his limitations and found new things to do that check off some of the same boxes. He works on an elliptical to stay in shape and rehab his knee. He throws himself into fantasy football to scratch his competitive itch, and he sweats it out in the sauna to help blow off some steam. As for me, I'm not going to yoga classes at the moment because I don't have the time or energy, and I'm also not getting as much done as I once did on a daily basis. But I count my lucky stars that I'll someday be able to do those things again, even if not for a while after the baby comes. It's natural to grieve losses, temporary or permanent, big or small, but eventually we need to accept reality and ask ourselves, how can I work with the way things are instead of resisting them? Otherwise, we cause ourselves a lot of unnecessary stress, and it doesn't help or change anything.
And that's a great point. When she talks about mourning, mourning who you were is a legitimate reaction.
Yeah.
It's okay to be sad, to mourn your dreams of the future that may not come true based upon circumstances that have changed. I have a parent that is not in the best health, and that was one of the things that I had to talk with him about and stuff. And it's okay to be mad.
Yeah.
And it's okay to be upset and to go through all of the stages of grief and mourning for those dreams and those aspirations you had of your future, of what you wanted to see and do.
Yeah.
And all the things that may not come true now. So go through that stuff for sure. That's important to move through all that stuff.
Yeah. It definitely is. Or even like, you and I used to be the kind of person that pretty much was up for whatever, whatever we're doing as a group to hang out, cool them in for the most part. And, you said even that you've had people since you, got on medicine and whatever that were like, oh, I miss the old Jen. And it's, it's like, yeah, but the old Jen was not in a good place. Like,
she was not happy.
Yeah. And like me, part of the reason, like when I look back, it was like when I romanticize those times when I would just go do anything. It's like, I look back and I go, there's so much of that stuff that I only did because I'm a people pleaser. Like I was doing it to get the attaboy, is why I was doing it. Cause I did a lot of stuff I really didn't want to do, but I did it just because that's what somebody else wanted to do. And, and I know we all do that, like everybody does that to some extent, but I think I was looking back at it and realizing I was doing it more and more. Like there were times I was doing things I absolutely hate doing. And it wasn't even for somebody who I was in like a close friendship or relationship with, I was just doing it cause it was like, okay, I guess this is what is being done, it's like, this is how I'll get them to like me or whatever. And it was more about me just trying to fit in than it was necessarily about being happy or doing what I like to do. So yeah, I do miss the days when literally anyone could call me up and be like, hey, do you want this? And I would be able to just go, yes. But at the same time, my motivations for it, I'm much happier where I am now. If I do something now, it's because if I do something with someone, even though I don't like it, it's because I see that it's important to them and I want them to have that moment or whatever, it's a different motivation now. Even though the results may be the same, the motivation's different. And I'd much rather be at that point.
I always find it so interesting when you stop and really look at things and determine, am I doing it because I want people to like me, or am I doing it because I want to like the people?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that when you stop and you think about it, it's like, wait a minute, I really like this person, so I want to go out of my way to do things for them and with them.
Yeah.
It's a whole different thing than I want to do this because I want them to like me.
Yeah.
It's a whole different place to be in life. And I think that's something that kind of comes with age, that you finally get to that point where it's like, oh, wait a minute, I don't like you. I've been hanging out with you all a long time and I'm just not a fan.
Yeah. Well, and it makes sense, people change, they grow differently, but it's like,
absolutely.
There's been TV shows where they'll show that and stuff too, where, I can think most of the ones I can think of are like comedies or whatever, where, they'll do something because they meet a new friend or a person they want to be friends with. So they'll keep doing things that are totally out of their character, like jumping out of planes or doing,
Right.
dangerous activities that they would never normally do, but they're doing it just to try to impress that person. And then eventually, of course, they have their, like, why am I doing this moment? Like, I'm fine with being who I am. And yeah, I think that's kind of where we run into sometimes. But yeah, just, again, it's, if nothing else, it comes down to that, sometimes you just can't do what you used to do because you're just older. As much as none of us want to admit to it, it's, like I'm sure Michael Jordan would love to get out and play 40 minutes or so of a basketball game, but, his knees are just not going to let him do it. Plus he's, in his 50s now, he's not going to be able to keep up with those young guys out there. And, and I'm sure like a lot of athletes especially go through that where they mourn their past lives. And that's why a lot of athletes, can't quite scratch that competitive itch, but the sooner you find something else or you just quit doing that in general is just going to be better off for you mentally. Number 4 is stop pushing yourself when you need to take it easy. We all do it, or at least I suspect we do. We minimize our physical and emotional needs because we judge ourselves for having them. We think we should be able to do more, maybe because other people in similar situations are doing more, or because we just plain expect a lot from ourselves. But the thing is, telling yourself you shouldn't be exhausted doesn't make you better able to function through your tiredness. Demeaning yourself for needing a break doesn't make you any more productive or effective. And belittling yourself for feeling whatever you feel doesn't immediately transform your emotions. If you're tired, you need rest. If you're drained, you need a break. If you're hurting, you need your own compassion. And nothing will change for the better until you give yourself what you need. I get that we can't always instantly drop everything to take good care of ourselves, especially when other people are depending on us. But we can usually create small pockets of time for self-care by alleviating our self-imposed pressure and prioritizing our needs. Recently, I've been embracing the idea of mini self-care practices. It's not easy for me because I have a tendency to be very all or nothing. But sometimes small things can make a big difference. I might not have time for an hour nap, but I can rest my eyes for 15 minutes. I might not be able to clock in 10,000 steps, but I can take a walk around the block. I may not have time to journal about my feelings for an hour, but I can jot down 3 worries and 3 potential solutions to help calm my mind. And sometimes I just need to find a way to do more for my own well-being, whether that means canceling a commitment or asking someone for help. It's tempting to push ourselves, especially if this has been our pattern, but some days aren't for moving forward. They're just for honoring where we are.
I just tweeted, not every day is for making decisions. Some days it's just for buckling in and taking the ride.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it comes down to. It's like some days you just gotta get through.
Yep.
Do what you need to do, get through it. Other days, those are the sweeping days that you can make big decisions and you can, really hit it hard. And just, I think, again, I hate to beat a dead horse, but everything seems to come down to perspective and knowing yourself and really getting to a good place within yourself to recognize when you need to be pushed and recognize when you need to relax and let yourself be.
I think this goes back to, what was it, a couple weeks ago when we talked about being busy all the time. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I think really the more we can take the power away from the word busy is where you can start finding, you can start putting that power into taking care of yourself. Because like it even says on here, sometimes you need to, just because you look at your planner and it says A, B, C, D does not mean that that's how the day's going to shake out.
Right.
Sometimes you can go A, B, and then go, man, I don't have time for C, or this is not going to work. And you have to adjust on the fly. And I think if you try to adhere to your schedule, like, with, white knuckling, holding on to it, then you're hurting yourself. And, because there are things all of us do through the day. Like so many times I've read stuff where people are like, oh, I don't have time for meditation. It's like, really? You don't have 10 minutes somewhere? Like like, but then I listen to like the Tim Ferriss podcast, and these people who are like the busiest people in the world are like, oh yeah, I meditate 3 times a day, like, and the reason is they schedule the time,
They value it.
Yeah. And they go, okay, every day, this time, meditation. Everything else falls in there, and I think sometimes when we do our daily scheduling concepts or our to-do lists or whatever, we don't do that. We don't go, hey, there's an element of the day where I have to come first. Like I've said before, take your lunch, that kind of stuff, and like I said, I think cutting back on the whole power behind the word busy is like, oh, I'm just too busy for this. And it's like, are you? Find, prioritize it. Like, we've all got something through our days that we could probably move or cut back on a little bit somewhere, or, whatever it is.
And busy is not the same as productive.
That's yeah. Definitely true.
Yeah. So, stop and think about it. It's like, what are you busy doing?
Mm-hmm.
And is it really the best use of your time? Are you really being productive in what you're choosing to do with your time?
I think most of the time we're busy at being busy. Like, that's really what it comes down to so many times. Yeah.
Exactly.
If you want to find time to do something, you can. And like I said, I've heard schedules of some people that are just literally from minute they wake up to the minute before they go to sleep, they have something in their schedule, and they find time for a walk or meditation or, an hour at the gym or half an hour at the gym or whatever they can fit in, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a matter of how much you really want to put it in there.
Yeah.
Although, I'm sure the exercise industry would really hate people to be able to find time for things, Then they won't be able to sell your exercise equipment that, it only takes 5 minutes a day.
Right?
Yeah.
10 minutes a day and you look amazing.
Yep. In 6 weeks, you'll have a beach body. Like, okay, maybe a beach whale.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway, number 5 is stop reminding yourself of how you're falling behind. I think it all boils down to this. When we minimize our struggle, try to do too much, and push ourselves despite our desperate need for self-care, it's generally because we're afraid we're somehow falling behind. We think about everything we want to accomplish, everything we need to do in order to become who we think we should be, and we panic at the thought of losing momentum. Most of us are accustomed to living life like a race to some point in the future when we imagine we'll be good enough, and our lives will be good enough. Any threat to our sense of progress can feel like a threat to our self-esteem and hope. We also live in this constant bubble of comparison, as if we need to keep up with everyone else in order to make the most of our lives. But none of this is true. While we may want growth and change, we don't need it in order to be worthy or happy, and certainly not on a predetermined timeline. We also don't need to keep up with anyone else because we're never behind. We're simply on our own path. What's more, wherever we are right now, this is a valid piece of our life experience and perhaps even a valuable part. We don't need to push through it to catch up to everyone else or to where we thought we'd be. Most people would agree that some of their most immense growth came from their greatest challenges, and in some cases even their sense of purpose. I would never have guessed during the 10-plus years I struggled with depression and bulimia that period of my life would be the catalyst for this site. I could never have imagined how profoundly my pain would shape the trajectory of my life, and how this chapter would lead to new chapters that were equally as exciting or fulfilling. Wherever you are right now, be there fully. Accept it, up to it. It's only when we accept the lows that we're able to grow through them and rise to the highs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Without the lows, you can't recognize what the high is.
And, it's interesting because, like, this is one that, this is where to-do lists and I don't play nice at times. Because I'll look at a to-do list and be like, oh, I'm so far behind. Or honestly, not even something that air quote important, like the comics that I read, I was like, man, I'm like staying on pace. And then after a while you realize it's like, geez, this almost feels like a chore. And this is supposed to be something I enjoy. So now I'm like 2.5 years behind in comics, and I'm fine with it because I'll get there or I won't. It's, like I don't care. Same with movies and TV shows and all that stuff. It's like there's so many I haven't seen, and it's like, that's fine. I don't need to have seen them. I mean, I want to, sure, but I have all these lists, and there is no possible way for me to maximize all of these lists and be efficient and actually make a lot of progress on all of them. There's only so many hours in the day. And, that's why I got to where I finally, I just put everything into one big to-do list. And like I said before, it's like I'll grab 3 to 5 things and I'll put them on a Post-it note. And I won't write another Post-it note generally until that one is done. Unless there's something I have to, like something that is a priority or something. And since I've been doing that, I've found that this falling behind concept doesn't hurt me the way it used to. In fact, I think the only thing that I'm like, about falling behind on is podcasts.
Sure.
And that's simply because there's so many I really want to listen to. And again, I'd have to be listening to them 24 hours a day, and then I'm not getting anything else done because I'm only listening to podcasts, so it's just not, there's way too much media to consume and not enough time. And you just have to become okay with that. And same with everything else in life. There's any day of the week you could probably go, geez, I have 25 hours worth of things to do and only have how many ever hours you're awake to do it, and just go, this just isn't enough. And not to mention, the one thing you should be, somewhat concerned in if you're falling behind in is sleep. Like, because
true.
There's so much that sleep does for you and so many bad things that are really starting to surface from, like, being connected to not enough sleep. So, just try your best on that too, but don't worry about falling behind. Just try, try to hit your 8 hours.
And every day is a new day. So don't carry over from yesterday all of the stuff that you didn't get done. Yes, you can move that to the next day and stuff, but don't carry the guilt that you didn't get it done the day before over into the next day.
Yeah.
Don't make, just because you have a bad Monday doesn't make the whole week bad. Right.
Well, especially if you're setting the deadline on something.
Yeah.
That was something I realized a long time ago, was there's so many times that I'm like honestly right now, I've talked on here about all the t-shirts I have. I want to put a lot of them on eBay to try to sell them. I've made very little progress in that. And I'm not beating myself up over it. I could, but it's like, I'm the one who has the deadline. Like, I set that deadline, so I can just move it. There it is. Now there's no more pressure. And, now don't get me wrong, there's still pressure. But,
Sure.
That's just because I'm who I am. It is different if it's like a work situation or whatever. But when you set the deadlines on something, it's like, just move the deadline a little bit, Especially if it comes down to something that's self-care,
Yeah. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think we're doing pretty good. How about you?
Yeah, that's good.
All right. Awesome. Well, with that, folks, I think we had a good conversation tonight, but there's always things that we leave out that we could talk about more on. So if you find those things in our podcast and you have some ideas, you know what to do. Reach out to us. You can contact us at thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com is our website. The Crazy Life Podcast at outlook.com is our email address. You can reach me on Twitter is the easiest way to reach me, at Jen's Crazy Life. That's Jen with a G. And if you want to hear more from me, you can listen to my other podcast, which is Shake the Sheets at shakethesheets.com. And that's it for what I got. What about you, Brian?
You can find the show on Twitter also at the Crazy Life Pod. You can find Henno on Twitter at Ida Henno. You can find, actually, I think, I gotta look real quick because I'm not 100% sure. I can't remember if the first episode of Moving the Needle has dropped now or not. Anyway, but you can also find him, of course, Twitter's not going to want to work right now.
Ida Henno, right?
Yeah, I have that. I was just, you can find him on Facebook at Henno Heiter. But I was trying to find...
Moving the Needle drop?
Yeah, I was trying to look for that, and I was also trying to to make sure that I have the Twitter name right for Gotham Lights, Nights, whatever. Yep. Yeah, actually, you can find Moving the Needle on Twitter at NTN Pod. And there's links to the show on there. I don't think they're back on everything just yet, like iTunes and what have you. But they're working on it, so it should be soon. But you can find the link on their Twitter page. And yeah, I totally lost my train of thought. Oh, I was looking at
How can they reach you?
You can find me on Twitter at Tsunami. You can find my other podcast at salty_language on Twitter or at saltylanguage.com. Which that show is very not safe for work. So make sure, you're careful where you're listening to that without earbuds or whatever, All right, I forgot. They changed the name of their other show, and I can't remember what it is now. I can't remember if it's Orville Lights or if they switched it to something else. Anyway, contact Henno if you want to listen to that show. It's about the Orville, or they also covered every episode of Gotham, the TV show. So if you're interested in those, just hit up Henno. He can get you the link to that, because I don't know if I have the right link or not. Anyway. You can also find this show on Facebook at facebook.com/group/crazylifepodcast. We're part of the Tangent Bound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. And we're also part of the Danger Entertainment Network, which can be found at dangerentertainment.net. Yeah, boy, I'm just a mess tonight. Jeez. Anyway, like usual, I'll mention on here, if you feel like you need help, please reach out, or, go get the estimate, as I say in here plenty of times. I actually just was having a conversation with somebody earlier and gave them that advice too, because they kind of felt like they might need help. So, just go to the doctor, just see what they say. You don't have to do anything else after that. Just go find out. That way you know what your options are, and, at least maybe then, there's something very freeing with having a diagnosis on something. At least you go, okay, now I know what it is. Sorry. So, so definitely do that. And please reach out to somebody. There's plenty of people out there willing to help you. Please reach out. And, also, please reach out to your, friends, especially if they've, been going through something rough. But, just try to reach out to your friends at different times and just make sure they're doing okay. And then also, please, let's try to put some more kindness out there. I saw something earlier. I was talking about, like looking people in the eye again, how that's kind of a lost art. Because everyone's looking in their phones, or they're just deliberately avoiding eye contact with people and not smiling when you talk to someone, and I don't mean this in a, like telling people to smile situation, but it's just, if you're smiling, don't look away from somebody. You can look right at them. It's fine. Like if you're happy, smile, whatever. So, just little stuff like that, or, just holding the door for people if you don't already do that and whatever. Just, just nice acts with no expectation of thank you or return act. Just do it because it makes you feel good and whatever. And then, of course, as we've talked through this show, is, make sure you're being kind to yourself and take time for your self-care and make sure that you're doing okay.
Absolutely. And somebody pointed out today, if a child comes up to you and wants to show you something, put your phone down. And I would like to expand that out there and say, if anyone comes up to you in real life and wants to show you something or wants to engage with you, if you want to engage with them, put your phone down and do so. We hide so much behind our phones and stuff, and we just kind of forget and we lose ourselves in our phones, and we forget to pay attention to the life in the world that's going on around us. So it's okay to put your phone down once in a while. Take a look around and enjoy yourself. So with that, have a great week, everybody.